Director. Greetings everybody, and all protocol observed. So you've heard a little bit of the background, and maybe just, if I could just say, VVOB, for those of you who don't know, is an international non-profit organisation supporting ministries of education to improve and develop the capacity of teachers and school leaders, working in Asia, Africa and South America. And I'm here from the Durban office, which is based in the Department of Education here in Durban. Thanks very much. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about learning through play, and as the program director mentioned, we've just finished piloting. So that's kind of the context of this conversation, is the piloting of a learning mathematics through play for foundation phase, which we've just concluded with 1,000 teachers in 4 districts here in KwaZulu-Natal. I wanted to just, let's go back to that slide. So I really wanted to just cover in the course of the next few minutes the benefits of learning mathematics through play. I want to touch a little bit on maths anxiety, and I'm really glad to see that that's already come up in the conversation so far. Learning mathematics through play in practice, just a few examples, and then a brief introduction to that online course that was mentioned already. Thank you. So, learning through play. There's a really growing evidence base for this. So learning through play is really how we're built to learn. It comes naturally to us. And the evidence keeps growing that playing helps children master all the skills that they need in our fast-moving and ever-changing world. And there are 3 kind of characteristics, or 3 components to that. One is it unlocks essential skills. Children do this naturally when they're playing. It boosts well-being for life, and we'll get into the kind of characteristics of play in a bit more detail. And play is for everyone and everywhere, and I would encourage you to continue to play yourself. There's actually really good evidence around adult play and how this can be quite strategic for you too. So this is really building on the evidence that the Lego Foundation, which is driving a kind of a movement around learning through play, these 5 core characteristics of play. And when you look at it from a pedagogy of play perspective, these are the kinds of things that you will see when you observe playful learning. It should be joyful, and one of the reasons why it should be joyful is that it activates the brain's reward centers, triggering the feel-good chemical dopamine, which then of course encourages you to continue to want to be joyful. And these pictures are actually taken from our recent Learning Through Play Mathematics Summit. So these are people really being joyful, having conquered some challenge. And I think we talked a little bit about, the UK's learning colleagues also mentioned this idea of challenge. And one of the things that comes out of getting through that challenge is joy. It should be meaningful, and I think we understand this. It should link with concepts that we're familiar with, link with familiar experiences, and that makes it a meaningful experience. It should be actively engaging. So when you see a child being fully immersed, or even an adult, or anyone being fully immersed in the activity, it increases the likelihood of learning deeply about the concepts involved. It should be iterative, and this is really about practice, right? Continuing to struggle through an activity or repeatedly trying new ways of doing things. So practice makes, you say practice makes perfect, right? But practice makes for effective learning, where we have the opportunity to iterate, to adapt our strategies and to improve those. And that fires again the rewards and memory networks. And lastly, socially interactive. So it builds healthy relationships, it improves communication, it improves collaboration, all of these being 21st century skills for the 4th Industrial Revolution. So, maths anxiety. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what this looks like and how it presents. We call it the sum of all fears, right? Maths anxiety can impede our initial learning, which results in poor maths skills and negatively affects long-term academic success and career choices. There's been some mention about career choices, what decisions young people make, which subjects they choose, why they choose to drop out. And this is really building on maths anxiety or maths phobia in its extreme form. And how it manifests and the kinds of things that would be indicators of maths anxiety is continuous negative self-talk about mathematics. One of the things that we often hear And the research has shown also that people often say this in relation to maths anxiety as one of the causes is this perception that not everybody can do mathematics, right? That I'm a maths person, that somehow in my DNA I'm designed for maths, which is not true. And this can result in negative maths talk. A lack of motivation to practice. One of the things that we do know as mathematics educationists is that you cannot learn mathematics without practicing mathematics. And if you're not if you have a fear or anxiety around mathematics, you will not be motivated to practice. And so we really want to encourage people to practice mathematics. Poor memory of maths facts. Also the anxiety that you face, particularly in test situations, can result in poor memory of maths facts. And maths facts are things that we need to be able to draw on in our working memory in order to solve complex mathematics problems. The reliance on rote memorization. Again, if we feel anxious about mathematics, we go to those strategies that the UK's lead team talked about, these poor strategies around memorizing procedures. Or memorizing the shape of the problem rather than the actual way in which we can tackle it. These enduring negative beliefs around your ability and also about mathematics. And a fixed mindset, this idea that you cannot improve or that the outcome is really what we're focused on as opposed to the effort that will lead to that outcome. Thank you. And so the causes, some of the causes coming out of the research around maths anxiety is early mathematics experiences. They shape our relationship with and our attitude to mathematics and ultimately the learning outcomes. And some of these come from parental preconceptions. Parents saying things like, oh, I'm not a maths person, or well, I never did maths at school, I never did maths at university, but look at me, I'm still successful, I'm a small business owner, I'm successful. So that's the kind of conversations that we should avoid. Parental preconceptions, teacher preconceptions, preconceptions about children, conceptions about their own ability. The inappropriate level of challenge, right? So if it's too easy, it's boring. If it's too difficult, it creates this anxiety that I can't get there. So an appropriate level of challenge enables young people to struggle sufficiently to be able to get there, and then experience the joy and the dopamine rush that comes with having got there. Gender biases around mathematics. We see this now being revealed in numbers as we see girls not taking mathematics up to matric. We see the effect of this gender bias, that girls shouldn't be doing maths or cannot do maths. Time pressures. When we start to kind of have this time testing that creates this pressure, as opposed to the opportunity to freely explore a problem and solve it with effort. And then of course the outcome versus effort focus. Really, again, that just restating what I was saying about outcome and effort. So mathematics and play, are they opposite ends of the spectrum? Play we imagine to be unruly and imaginative, and maths is all about rules and equations, right? But actually they definitely are related.